Good morning. It is 9 o'clock, and this is the March 2nd, 2021. This is the Kings County Board of Supervisors regular meeting. Due to issues arising from COVID-19, the board is using a teleconferencing format for today's meeting. We are participating via World Wide Web. If you would like to make a public comment today, please make sure you're identified by name in the WebEx system. For those interested in commenting during unscheduled appearances, please use the raise your hand feature and wait to be recognized. Each speaker will be allowed up to 2 minutes for public comment. Each vote today will be a verbal or voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. After we have had a motion and a second regarding each item we are taking up today, we will be doing a roll call vote by district. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. Okay, at this time we'll call on Pastor Brian Kleinhammer from Kingdom Culture 2.0 to lead us in the invocation.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Let us bow our heads. Father God, as we meet here today, we're struggling with a lot of things in 2021. And there is a burden upon the leadership of our community that is not felt by the average person. So Lord, I ask that as we struggle with everything that we are needing and wanting, everything that we are lacking, I ask that you bestow upon us a spirit of gratitude, for we are being led by godly people. And Lord, we ask that your grace and abundance flow through them to all of us as we move forward into what is essentially uncharted territory. One thing we know, Father God, is that you are with us no matter what we face. Bless these proceedings, Father God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the flag salute. Ready? Salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, Right, at this time, we'll move to item 2, unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or other items of interest to the public that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 2 minutes are allowed for each item.
We do not have anyone with their hand up. And we do not see the person that did call this morning. He is not online.
Okay. Right. And we have no written comments.
No.
Okay. Thank you. And I think we have a pretty short meeting today. And if there are folks that wish to speak, maybe we can make time for them later. Right. On to item 3, which is approval of the minutes from the February 23rd, 2021 regular meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd, 2021. Verboen.
Okay, we have a motion by Verboen, second by Fagundes. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Neff,
Yes.
Richard Valley, Doug Verboon,
Here.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Very good, we have 5 in favor. On to item 4, consent calendar. Any changes, deletions, or a motion?
There are no questions, comments. Mr. Chair, Neves moves to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
We'll move seconds.
Very good, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. We'll move to item 5, which is regular agenda items in Behavioral Health Department. Lisa Lewis and John Perry.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman and the Board of Supervisors. Unchung Perry from Kings County Behavioral Health. I will be presenting the board agenda, and Dr. Lewis will conclude the presentation this morning. The department is excited to share and ask your board for an approval of the new service agreement with Precision Psychiatric Services Incorporated. Precision will be our second psychiatric service agreement to provide psychiatric services to the children who are in our ACT, Assertive Community Treatment Program. This psychiatric service was included in the department's Mental Health Services Act, MHSA, Innovation, Multiple Organizations Shared Telepsychiatry, MOST project that was approved by your board on June 26, 2018, as part of the 2017 through 2020 Kings County MHSA 3-year program and expenditure plan. And it was also approved by the Mental Health Service Over Act and Accountability Commission and Department of Healthcare Services in September 2018. The MHSA Innovation MOST project requires a state medical board licensed psychiatrist to perform psychiatry services for Kings County adults and children suffering from severe mental illness and severe emotional disturbances. In May 2019, the department entered into our very first psychiatric service agreement with Dr. R.E.R. Weznan to provide service to adult consumers and to also serve as our department's medical director. As a final component to the MHSA innovation plan, the department has chosen to contract with Precision to provide psychiatric services for children up to the age of 17 years old. Their services also include medication evaluations, evaluation updates, creating plans of a care, beneficiary wellness plan, and consultation with our treatment teams. Precision has a wealth of experience in providing psychiatric services across the state of California and working with very diverse populations since 2018. Precision uses the cutting-edge technology to provide high-quality and timely psychiatric care to consumers while reducing cost and burdens for healthcare delivery systems. They currently work with 25 psychiatrists who provide services in Kern, Tulare, Fresno, Sonoma, and Sacramento counties. This contract agreement is for 3 years, 2022-2023. It's a fee for service with each year's budget not to exceed $260,000 funded through MHSA Innovation. Under the agreement, the department will provide oversight of the program service to comply with federal, state, and county contract guidelines. And program oversight is also designed to meet countywide needs and state mandates for MHSA innovation component programs. Next, Dr. Lewis will add a conclusion to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Unchung. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Lisa Lewis, Director of Kings County Behavioral Health. And I'm here this morning with Dr. Ari Wisenhunt, our Medical Director, and also Dr. Baga and Rupali Telvi from Precision Psychiatry, the group that has been chosen to contract for these additional child psychiatry services through our MOST unit. I'm grateful to Dr. Wisenhunt for his leadership and expertise in assisting us in bringing this excellent group of child psychiatrists. The quality of psychiatrists matters a lot in the care in our community, and we are very happy about this group. I believe this contract will have long-term effects on Kings County by increasing the accessibility of child psychiatry in our community for now and for the future. We're all here and we're happy to answer any questions you might have for us today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, back to the board. Questions, comments?
If there are no questions or comments, Mr. Chair, Nebs moves to go ahead and execute the contract.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nev,
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we'll move to item 5B. And just for clarity, the document that we're reviewing today is on file with the clerk of the board if you wish to review that. So on to Public Works and Dominic.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dominic Tyberski, Public Works. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. I am before your board this morning to request approval of track 756 phase 4-3 subdivision improvement agreement and authorize the chairman of the board to execute the agreement. Tentative track map 756 was approved by the Kings County Advisory Agency on May 5th, 2003. Phases 1 through 4-2 of this track have been completed, and with approval of this agreement, developer Sherman Spradling will begin construction on phase 4-3. Phase 5 is already underway by a separate developer. This phase 4-3 will create an additional 13 lots for the community of Armona and Kings County. And county costs for these improvements will be recouped through the various fees. And at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Dominic. Questions, comments from the board?
If there are no questions or comments, moved as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Chair, for purposes of clarification of the motion, the document needs certain clerical corrections to accurately reflect the chair's name as well as the start date of the agreement. Would the maker of the motion consider amending to allow clerical ministerial changes to correct those?
So movement, Chair.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay, so and we have clarity on the motion. And Madam Clerk, we have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Joe Nev,
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Chairman.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We're going to head to next item is item 5C, but fortunately today we do have some time. We have a fairly short agenda today, and I know there was some public comments that wish to be made. And so at this time, we'll return back to public comment.
We can have Kyria. Kyria, can you please stop sharing your screen so we can have the public member online? Thank you. Mr. Meyer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Charlie. I'm with GCM Farms out in Stratford, and I have some comments and questions about ordinance number 696 in regards to the hemp. And a couple of them are dealing with the setback waiver requirement and the destruction abatement cost that you guys are saying that is required now up front for us to be able to grow hemp. I think, and I could be wrong, but some of these ordinances and rules that are being put in place are making it extremely difficult for someone like me to want to grow hemp, because you guys are wanting to micromanage what we're doing on a crop that has passed in the Farm Bill, has been taken off the controlled substance list. And I think there's just a couple of people in the community that are having issues with it on some stuff that happened a couple of years ago. And I think putting a broad view of that on the whole industry of it for us out here is wrong. The destruction cost, I've been told it's at $200 an acre. Well, if I just wanted to do 50 acres, I got to come up with a bond or a bank credit of $10,000, which is ridiculous because I need that money to grow my crop. And I'm a private landowner, and any private landowner farmer, if he's going to abandon the crop, is going to destroy that crop and get it ready for the next crop. So having that in the ordinance, I don't see how that is beneficial to anybody in the community. If it's someone that is not going to take the crop through harvest, then that individual should have action taken against them, not anybody who wants to grow crop needs to come up with this. That we have, and we're told. Some of the comments that are in this ordinance with regards to odor and the welfare of residents and public nuisances and threats to the safety and viability of nearby crops. Some of the stuff you guys put in here, I mean, it's not like this for any other crop. I mean, we could complain about almonds when it's almond harvest and the dust, and residents living near almond trees and the dust and allergies and everything else. We could complain about dairies and their odor, which is year round. They're complaining about odor on hemp that may be for the last 20 days of the crop before it's harvested. For the pests, because of the lack of registered pesticides that can be sprayed, there's no ordinance in there for alfalfa or safflower, which is a host to a lot of pests that can decimate cotton and a couple of other crops. So there's nowhere in there that other crops have to be managed the same way as hemp, even though hemp, again, we're not growing marijuana, but we're treated like we're growing marijuana. A marijuana crop does have a strong odor and is very intrusive. We had several sheriffs come out 2 years ago when we first started growing the crop, and I had several detectives and a couple deputies come out and say, oh, we can stand out in the middle of this field all day, but you go into a marijuana field and you can't because the odor is so much more intense than in a hemp field.
Charlie, I'm gonna have to stop you there. We've kind of went through the time allotted for your public comment.
Okay.
I don't know any.
The board may ask questions for clarification, but if they want to discuss the matter, it will need to be agendized at a future meeting.
Okay. All right. Pleasure of the board at this point. Obviously, it is a public comment, and I think there are some adjustments that could be made to this. I mean, I look back at plat on date and cotton, while it was a
Mr. Chair,
mandated rule.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to bring it back?
Yeah. So we should
I'll make a motion to bring it back and further discussion.
It could be done by consensus with all 5 members, and if there is no consensus, then a motion would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to review the ordinance. The hemp industry has changed a lot, so and even though we just did that in January, I think there was some cleanup language we needed to.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Myers, for your comments. Are there further public comments that weren't available early? Okay. All right. Thanks for your comments, and we'll move back to the regular agenda. And
Excuse me, there is another gentleman that just showed up for a public comment, if that's okay. His name's Guy Brodigan.
sure,
Okay.
3 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. My name is Guy Brodigan. I live at 974 West Cinnamon, Hanford now. So I have some pictures of the ordinance that I printed out. I'll just go through. I guess it's a regulation issued agricultural seal commissioner. It's on 14193, or under that deal. It was a B item, now it's an A. So my comment would be that cultivation license holders should be notified in this county when things are going to change, so we can be up to speed as to what's going on. The other item, I would like to know why 700 feet was the proper distance and what that information was based on in our ordinance, and the difference between that 2019 and 2020. And the other thing, this is under 14195 as well, is G, the set cost based on submitted plans. Thus, the grower pays 100% prior to plant for that crop budget. I don't think that those $200 and such are appropriate, especially for landowners, but it shouldn't matter whether you're renting ground or not. Under that same, on our ID checks under J, I asked who this is by. Why can't it be local? The sheriff has the authority and the capacity to do this cheaper, faster, and then you would have a relationship with that person who's growing in our county. E, too few details, and I wrote similar impediment. Okay, 10 seconds. And the setback on other applicable linear footage needs to be discussed. That's all my comments. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Very good. Any further comments? Nope. Okay, thanks, gentlemen. And now we'll move back into our regular agenda items.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, are you going to poll the board on the consent?
You gotta get.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see your nod. We were going to do by consensus. Did you nod?
No, I didn't. So I was waiting to get caught on, but I have an open mind about it, and I'm in agreement with the board. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Very good. And Madam Council, you have all the information you need.
We do,
Bring it
Mr.
back.
Chair. I assume we'll bring it back as a study session, take feedback from the board, and then, of course, the ordinance will have to be amended if the board so chooses following its study. I would suggest that the two gentlemen who spoke may want to participate in that study session to remind the board of their concerns.
All right, thank you. Okay, again, item 5C, and that's over to administration. Hear you or?
Yes, I'm going to take this. Good morning, board members. Kyria Martinez, Assistant County Administrative Officer. Last week on February 23rd, our office presented the 2021 State and Legislative Platform document to your board, which outlines several topics of importance and influence to the county. At last week's study session, we asked board members for any changes or comments. We did incorporate comments made from your board into the platform, and we followed up with those board members to see if those additions aligned with their comments. The document has been prepared in final format for your board's consideration. And at this time, we request to approve the state and federal legislative platform for calendar year 2021.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyria. Back to the board for questions, comments. Are the amendments acceptable? And if so, then entertain a motion to accept the legislative platform.
I'll make a motion to accept it as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Verboen, second by Fagundes. Madam Clerk, please call a roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboen.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, 5 in favor. Thank you. On to regular items 5D, and this is administration and Rebecca Kemp.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item is a weekly item that we've been doing on the COVID-19 pandemic. The last update that was given to your board was on February 23rd, 2021. I'll first go through and talk about any state actions, any federal actions, any local activities, and then I'll turn it over to Director of Public Health, Edward Hill, for an update on the local public health. So on the state side, the legislature has been going through their processes, and there was a Senate committee hearing on homelessness addressing the pandemic. The state officials from the Homeless Coordinating and Financing Council, the Department of Social Services, and the Department of Housing and Community Development discussed the state's efforts at house at-risk homeless individuals during the pandemic, including Project Room Key and Project Home Key. Of particular note, the state is preparing a homeless action plan that will be presented to the Homeless Coordinating and Financial Council soon. That will include improved coordination and guidance for various state agencies with authority for homeless programs. A panel of local government representatives, including some from the Central Valley, presented a real-life perspective to the work of addressing homelessness during the pandemic. Also wanted to note, both houses did discuss behavioral health budget proposals. The Assembly's hearing provided quite a bit of feedback on the behavioral health needs in California, including those that increased needs related to the pandemic. The background laid the groundwork for making the case that the state needs to invest additional resources into behavioral health infrastructure. So the administration is proposing to provide $750 million of one-time funding available for 3 years for behavioral health infrastructure. Of note on the human services side, I wanted to take your board back to the note regarding the $600 Golden State grant amount. This was put out for those in need, and this will be given to our CalWorks families. This will be issued by our agency locally. It's 100% state funded. Currently, we have close to 2,500 cases on CalWorks, so the financial impact of this issuance is $1.5 million. We don't have state all county letters. We'll be advertising and communicating with our constituents, letting them know. The state will issue advance funding for this expenditure in the next 2 weeks, and those allocations will be coming. So we will also issue a press release on that. There's also expansion on the CalFresh eligibility for students. Under the eligibility rules, college students, including community colleges and universities, are not eligible to CalFresh unless they are eligible for and are participating in the federally or state-approved work-study program. Just a couple of notes there. Also, on the federal side, because of the Federal Consolidation Appropriations Act of 2021, there's a temporary change of the rules for this current year to expand student eligibility. So students who are enrolled in college, in school, at least half-time are eligible for CalFresh. Okay, so just wanted to note that the governor was on in the past week and did highlight an agreement on the $6.6 billion budget package to accelerate the safe return to in-person instruction across California for schools. For the federal update, there are hearings going on the COVID-19 relief package. The House voted to pass that package. It was coronavirus relief package, HR 1319. So now the action has shifted to the Senate, where Democrats will need to draft a substitution for the House bill that complies with the rules established in the budget reconciliation. So these Senate Democrats are expected to bring a revised measure up for consideration beginning tomorrow. And the chamber's rules provide for 20 hours of debate, equally divided between the two parties. Lawmakers from both parties will be permitted to introduce amendments to the bill. So Democrats have been instructed by Majority Leader Chuck Schumer not to seek substantive changes. So votes on individual amendments will likely stretch into Thursday and Friday of this week. Once the Senate completes its work, the measure will head back to the House for a final vote, and Democrats are seeking to have the legislation on the president's desk prior to the expiration of the enhanced unemployment benefits that expire March 14th. On the county front, the county is continuing to adjust its operations. We are convening the Emergency Operations Center once a week virtually, and we are taking steps to reduce the health risks within our doors and to the community. So at this time, I know that our Director of Public Health has an extensive update. I'd like to turn it over to him to hear what's going on in public health.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ed Hill, Public Health. I'd like to start my presentation, as I always do, by reminding everyone the simple steps we can take to protect ourselves from communicable diseases such as COVID-19. Those are frequently wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. Don't touch your face with unwashed hands. Stay home if you're sick. Remain hydrated with water, as a hydrated cell is a healthy cell. And then wear a cloth face covering to protect yourselves and loved ones. Our current numbers for today, we've collected 180,263 samples. We currently have 290 results pending. We're currently monitoring 8,362 individuals. Our current total cases since the outbreak began is currently at 14,878, unfortunately with 203 deaths. Total recovered at this time is 8,276 with an active case count at 6,399. Our skilled nursing facilities in Kings County have stabilized. Their total cases since the outbreak began is at 311. They currently have 0 active cases and unfortunately 42 deaths. Our state prison outbreaks, the total cases since the outbreak began is at 7,643. That's 1,233 in Corcoran, 3,287 at Avenel State Prison, and 3,123 at Saddle. They've collected 118,108 samples. They currently have 70 results pending. Their active case count is at 1,963. The recovered number is at 5,224, and unfortunately with 17 deaths. It appears that these facilities have stabilized or slowed considerably at this time, which is good to see. We continue to watch hospital data closely and continue to see a decrease in medical surge or general admissions both locally and throughout the region, and the ICU admissions. are what I would call stable, meaning it continues to hover around a consistent number, but is not decreasing locally. We are continuing to see decrease in ICU admissions throughout the region. As of yesterday, the local hospital had 34 COVID patients in the medical surge or general admissions, with 6 in the intensive care unit. They did report 53% of their ICU capacity in use, or 47 ICU capacity available, which is good to see again 2 weeks in a row. They did indicate that they had 1 individual from jail. We're still maintaining our 60-day supply of PPE for all of our healthcare professionals and providers in the county. Also, I'd like to update the board that when we started to see our cases surge back in October, Public Health ordered and received a small stockpile of common medications used in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. Now that we're seeing our cases decline greatly, we have distributed those medications to the hospital so they can be used before they expire. As of the 26th of last month, the Porterville alternate care site was at 2 patients. They will be moving to a warm status in the near future. We have not received an update since that date, so I hope to have a better update for you next week. The mobile testing program site schedule for this week is on our website, and we continue to hold our required regularly scheduled follow-up calls with the Unified Support Team on a bi-weekly basis and address any issues that we encounter. The state website for our current metrics today, the values are our new cases per 100,000 is at 14.3. And that's our adjusted value. Our unadjusted is at 18.6. We continue to see a decline in new cases, which is good. We did experience a very small increase in cases from the Super Bowl Sunday, as I had mentioned. And we do anticipate seeing another small increase in the next week from our last 3-day weekend. The Super Bowl Sunday increase was very slight, so I'm hoping for a same slight increase when we experience the next one. Our overall testing positivity for today is at 4.9%, and our overall testing positivity in the lowest quartile of the Healthy Places Index is at 4.3%. So this means both our new case, or excuse me, not both, but our new cases per 100,000 meet the purple tier criteria, and both of our testing positivity are now in the orange tier criteria. So this is important because if we're able to maintain these numbers, we'll be eligible for accelerated movement through the tiers system. Our tests per 100,000 seems to have leveled off at the range of 440 to 500 a day, and the state's median is now down at 346, which is a decrease from 386 the week prior. So again, we are continuing to get credit for our new cases. That's at adjusted rate because we are testing more than the state median. The state is discussing changes to the blueprint, and the biggest takeaway from them at this point is they're likely going to change the threshold from 7 cases to 10 cases to move to the red tier. They're also considering adding a vaccine rate for each county, and all the counties showed quite a bit of concern for this, as there's still concern over the third-party administrator model, the zero visibility into the multi-county entity process, and the fact that My Turn allows for out-of-county residents to be vaccinated, yet they're going to introduce a metric that are going to hold us accountable for vaccines in our county. They indicated the changes will occur sometime in mid-March. I'll keep you updated as we learn more. Now for the vaccine update. Vaccine data is being published by the state. They know it's completely wrong, but they're publishing it anyway. Again, this is frustrating on a number of levels, especially since this is the data they'll use to allocate vaccines moving forward. Also, the new Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine has been approved through the emergency use authorization, and we've heard that we may see cases in California as soon as this week. The vaccine has some considerable advantages. For instance, it is a single-dose vaccine, which makes it more easily to reach persons who are difficult to find, who may be without a medical home, have limited transportation, or homebound, or they're fearful of adverse side effects through 2 doses. It is also more stable and easy to store and transport. It can be stable for 2 years at negative 20 degrees Celsius or 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And it is also stable for at least 3 months if it's just refrigerated at 36 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which is stark contrast to the other 2 vaccines. As you can imagine, there's quite a list of persons who might benefit from one-dose vaccine. I won't get into that exhaustive list, but there are also some potential concerns. For instance, it is only showing a 66% efficacy overall in preventing moderate COVID-19 responses 28 days after being vaccinated, as compared to the approximate 95% efficacy of the other two messenger RNA vaccines, such as Moderna and Pfizer. But it does have an 85% effective overall in preventing severe COVID illness, and it is completely protective against COVID-19 related hospitalizations and deaths 28 days after vaccination. But because of this, some may see the vaccine or this vaccine as being lower class or inferior to the others, but we are still receiving quite a bit of interest from vulnerable communities that are interested in this vaccine option, despite of the reported shortcomings. The side effects from the vaccine are similar to the others at the injection site. There can be pain, redness of the skin, and swelling. General side effects are similar to the other vaccines, with headache, feeling very tired, muscle aches, nausea, and fever. And then, of course, there's always a risk of severe allergic reaction, but it is less so with this vaccine as compared to the Moderna and Pfizer. Sunday, the state did update the criteria in My Turn application, making all of Phase 1B Tier 1 sectors eligible. That's educators, childcare, food, agriculture, farmers, ranchers, emergency services. We at Public Health continue to focus our vaccine efforts on those who are over 65, but we have seen a sharp decline in the demand at that group and that population. As such, we've been working with our partners and have begun vaccinating in these representative sectors as well, to include agriculture, farmers, ranchers, educators, and childcare. Last week, Public Health and between Public Health and OptumServe, there were 1,705 vaccines administered. That was 564 by OptumServe and 1,141 by Public Health. We vaccinated 1,222 in Hanford, 19 in Avenal, 278 in Corcoran. There was also a second dose drive-through clinics held by both ARI and Ventus for those folks that they held or that they vaccinated at their drive-through event 4 weeks prior. We also partnered with Adventist Health to provide first dose vaccines for all K through 12 educators this last Sunday, as well as some Head Start organizations. And when I say we partnered, what I mean by that is Public Health provided the additional vaccines, and the Kings County Office of Education and Adventist Health did all the work. Also, I wanted to clarify, when I say all K through 12 educators, I'm only speaking to those who were currently wanting to be vaccinated and registered for the event. There are more than 3,500 education staff in Kings County, and there's still work to be done in that area. And we will continue to work on that area as another change that occurred starting March 1st. Counties are supposed to carve out 10% of their allocations for the K through 12 sectors. We also did hold a small pilot mobile van clinic as we launched this process with J.G. Boswell, so we started moving into that sector as well, where we provided 186 vaccines. Also, as mentioned last week, we were working on swapping out our OptumServe testing site at the Day Reporting Center for an OptumServe vaccine site. The swap was completed, and they started vaccinating last Wednesday. Also mentioned last week, we learned that this site may not come with their own vaccines as promised, and we did have to provide them 1,200 Moderna vaccines to get them up and running. Thankfully, late last week, we did receive notice that we are going to receive an additional 1,170 Pfizer vaccines for this site, and they'll continue to receive that moving forward. This is, however, less than the 2,100 that they promised, but they anticipate that as the vaccine supply and availability increases, they'll increase this value as well. In the meantime, they have asked us, and we have adjusted their work hours and work days to accommodate this for the 1,170 doses. The site will now be open Tuesday through Saturday from 8:30 to 4:30. And then finally, as a reminder, this site is using the My Turn application to schedule appointments, which can be fooled, and it does allow for people from outside the county to be vaccinated. We still disagree with this practice, but it's something that we can't change, as this is a state-run site. We do have to provide a lot of logistical support for this because the site does not have the ability or the ultra-low freezers necessary to store it. So we do have to provide that logistical support of, one, receiving the vaccine allotment from the state for them, as well as coming in early in the morning to defrost the vaccine so it can be ready for administration each morning. As mentioned last week, we were supposed to transition to the third-party administrator model this week, but there's been some delays due to the contract language and lack of functionality of MyTurn. This has caused the state to slow down a little bit. However, the state is going to continue to push forward and strive to complete the transition in the Central Valley by the end of the March. So I'll have some more updates as we continue to move through that process. And we still have the same concerns that we've always voiced in the past over this process. We have been holding regularly scheduled vaccine planning calls with all of our vaccine providers as required by the state, Adventist, ARIA, Family Healthcare Network, Omni, and United. And we finalized our plan to move into food, agriculture, farmers, and ranchers. The plan includes organizations with greater than 1,000 employees will use their occupational health programs to vaccinate their staff, and we will provide the vaccines. Our first priority will be those that are working in congregate settings where the virus transmission is more likely to occur. This will be organizations such as Central Valley Meat, Leprino, Del Monte, Marquez Brothers, etc. Organizations with less than 999 employees and who don't have our occupational health will work with our local clinics to set up processes and clinics that fit their specific needs, which include scheduled events at clinics, on location, and mobile clinics. We did feel this was the most prudent way to proceed, as by the end of the month, we will likely be forced to switch to the third-party administrator / MyTurn model, and we, Public Health, will no longer be a distributor of vaccine, and the above-mentioned partners will receive their allocations directly. Again, when we make this transition, Public Health not only will not be just a simple provider, but we will likely be the safety net for anybody that falls through the cracks that miss getting vaccinated by all those other organizations. But the goal until that happens is to get through as many of the agriculture, farmers, and ranchers before the move to the third-party administrator by the end of the month. I also want to bring up that as we move through this plan, we've already encountered some minor changes, and this is expected, where when we start working with organizations, we learn that some of them have been vaccinated or already have processes in place, and as such, we will modify and change this plan to adjust accordingly. I also want to bring attention the March 15th date as another important date, because on this date, individuals between the ages of 16 and 64 with chronic medical conditions become eligible, which is a good thing. However, it's based on the discretion of a medical provider. The state direction actually reads, healthcare providers may use their clinical judgment to vaccinate individuals age 16 through 64 who are deemed to be at the very highest risk of morbidity and mortality from COVID-19 as a direct result of one of more of the following severe conditions, and then it lists the conditions. But it doesn't give any further detail on guidance on who's going to be providing the vaccine, and it will put a large burden on the local health jurisdiction and healthcare system, because it will expand the population quickly when our vaccine inventories aren't expanding as fast. One thing that I'd also like to bring to the attention of the board is that as the state opens up more sectors in MyTurn, at some point it's going to be very difficult, if not possible, to verify any type of, employment or sector membership moving forward. We'll continue to do that as best we can, but at some point it will just become unmanageable. And then finally, I wanted to provide an update that it looks like many of the local pharmacies are now providing vaccines. CVS has appointments available, and they are continuing to vaccinate 65 and older healthcare and long-term care residents and staff. Walgreens in Hanford and Lemoore requires you to log in with your Walgreens account, but they are vaccinating all Phase 1A and Phase 1B Tier 1 eligible, just the same as MyTurn and OptumServe. Walmart does require you to log in with your sign-in for Walmart, but it does indicate that they don't have any in stock. And the Target pharmacy sends individuals to the CVS pharmacy for appointments. Right now, all of our clinics are open, and there are available appointments not only at OptumServe, but also at Public Health, at CVS, and at Walgreens. I'm going to go ahead and conclude my report there and see if there's any questions.
Okay, maybe a shot of oxygen too after that report, right? This never seems to get any shorter. Okay, questions, comments from the board?
I just want to thank Director Hill for his hard work and dedication for the community. I'm hearing a lot of good about him and his staff getting the rollout for the vaccine. We don't always give praise when we have a pandemic like this, but I think Ed's done a great job, and I'm hearing good things. I mean, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of people upset that didn't get their shots early enough, but they were just a little bit impatient. I think Ed has dealt with them and got them the shots they needed. So Ed, I want to thank you for doing a good job and taking care of our community. I know we got a event coming up with some of the ag workers this Saturday, and I got a nice letter from the person that dealt with Ed and thanked me for his efforts. So we'll let you know. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Supervisor Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to piggyback Supervisor Verboon's comments on Mr. Hill and his staff. I also want to thank him. I mean, Ed and his staff, they're not about getting the credit. They don't care anything about that. They care about getting these doses in the arms of the people. And, you know, you hear about the big event over the weekend, but Ed and his staff provided, I believe, 1,170 Pfizer vaccines to ensure that every teacher in Kings County who wanted the vaccine was able to receive the vaccine. And so I also want to say thank you for that. And then I know yesterday on the call, our CAO touched on the topic of the letter that the board approved the last time we met in regards to getting on the governor's radar and in regards to our concerns about my turn. Can I ask that, even though we got some good feedback on that, has the county received any official correspondence from the governor? Because at the end of the day, it still sounds like, you know, these vaccines, Mr. Chair, the limited amount we have in Kings County are at risk. And to read these continue to read during the week, these major news stories, you know, about people, for some reason, they keep pointing out the Bay Area residents just gaming the system and getting these codes, these access codes to come to rural communities and counties like Kings County and get our vaccines. And, you know, once someone up there, you know, finds out how to do it and get these special codes, they're just texting them to all their friends, and their friends are getting on and they're making the drive down here. And so, you know, it could sound good that, you know, the letters with the governor, but Mr. Chair, we need to make sure, continue, because the board's been very good about this. We do need to push the issue. We do need to make sure that we have action, not just, you know, good sound bites, because at the end of the day, these vaccines are at risk. And now as we're switching over to a population, when you talk meat packaging workers, grocery store clerks, ag workers, and farm workers, because I always specifically say farm workers as well. These are the people that have, without debate, have taken the brunt of this pandemic, and we're working out there in those fields sick, and farmers and ag workers still working sick in the shops to bring food, feed the nation, and to have, now that it's their turn, is they've waited patiently for their turn for the vaccine, their vaccines aren't protected. And if it was any other population that had their vaccines unprotected, there'd be people raising hell in Sacramento right now. These are the most vulnerable, and to have that back door open for their vaccines, to me, it's inexcusable. Mr. Chair, I think we need as a board to continue to push this and get action on that topic. But I would like to get a response from the CAO on my question of official correspondence. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you.
So the answer, Supervisor Valley, is no, we haven't received anything official. There has been some discussions about a geofencing capability that they are supposedly working on. for the My Turn application, but that is going to take some time to implement. And we're still not sure if they're going to do it. So that's the only thing that I am hearing in the channels up and down the state. And we have not received anything official in writing.
I would follow up with that too. I did receive a text from Graham Knaus, Executive Director of CSAC, and he wanted to share with the board and folks that he really appreciated the letter. He thought it was the best letter he'd seen on the issue, and so it's been shared and used. The text, and so I just want to say thanks to staff. You wrote a great letter that was very impactful and meaningful, and so I think that voice came from many directions. It's just I don't know that they want to hear it. So further, I know he's going to be around the state in a couple places today. I think he's in San Luis Obispo and also in Ventura, and I think that message will be shared again there as well, as folks have the opportunity to get in his ear. But with that, we have received that report. Further comments, questions, actions that you wish to see on the item?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Hill, as the sports, high school sports spring seasons start to kick off, what's the current guidelines on outdoor activities like baseball, softball?
Thank you, Supervisor Neves, through the chair. The California Department of Public Health did publish new guidelines on sports, specifically outdoor sports. They are allowed to, even the full contacts, operate in what's known as the more restrictive tier, the purple tier, once the new cases per 100,000 is less than or equal to 14. So in Kings County, we were very close to that. For those high contact sports, they do add some criteria that the athletes and the coaches must test. And then for competitions, they have to provide test results within 24 hours. There are some more stringent requirements on large tournaments to the point where they have to be approved by the local health jurisdictions of the receiving or where the tournament's being played, as well as the jurisdiction where the competitors are coming from. Baseball, softball, sports along that realm, what are considered moderate or low contact sports, they are eligible to be played in the red tier, which Kings County will be in soon. But again, the same restrictions or modifications apply for tournaments.
And what about the spectators or game day officials?
So spectators are not recommended at this time, just like same as with the pro sports, so no live audiences. And then all of the staffing and event staff have to wear face coverings, as well as adhere to any other modifications that apply to concession stands, office work, things along those lines.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions, comments on the item? Seeing none, we will move on to item 6, which is board member comments, and switch it up this week. Supervisor Rowley.
I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Very good. Supervisor Neves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kings Waste and Recycling meeting held their monthly meeting for February. We approved opening negotiations with Waste Connections in Avenel to deliver waste to that landfill. Also approved discussions to enter an agreement with Mid-Valley Disposal for construction of an organics processing facility to be built in Kings County at Kings Waste and Recycling. They currently have a facility in Kerman that's operating very, very efficiently, and they would like to replicate that process in Kings County, possibly treating up to 60,000 tons per year. At the CART meeting, we opened up the public hearing for unmet transit needs, and of course, transit is down considerably, and so we didn't have any input on that. We also approved the asbestos removal and demolition of structures on the proposed transit center site. We also identified about $30 million of that $36 million funding need to construct that facility. And so we're moving down with that. And we also approved the purchase of a new service truck and an alternative fuel vehicle. So that program continues to move forward. At Kings County Association of Governments, we've got an update on the we're already making plans for 2021-22 transportation development estimates, as well as released the work draft budget. And so it's out on the street. We also learned that Corcoran received a Safe Routes to School grant. Out of 100 applications in the state of California, Corcoran was only one of 7 to be funded. So they did a great job, and I think they scored about 90 points, which is really good. So, and then we were able to get all of the members together and fill all the committee assignments. So that facility, Kings Association of Governments, is fully funded and fully staffed. They attended the virtual San Joaquin, the West Hills College information meeting that was held on February 25th. There was a very nice overview of the operations and community safety information that is generated from that. And so Amanda did a great job, Adventist Health, all in emergency planning and operations at Waste Management. Then attended with Supervisor Verboen, the San Joaquin Valley Regional Planning Council pre-trip. They will start the Valley Voice outreach tomorrow, March 3rd. And then finish up a week from tomorrow, March 10th. That used to be a trip to Sacramento, and now it's all virtual and online. So, and with that, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor for goodness. Good. Supervisor.
Add on what Supervisor Neb said about the Valley Voice trip. We had our pre-call on Friday and discussed who's going to say what and when. Which is always difficult to know how it's going to go when it's going to be a virtual meeting, but the ones we've attended so far with Valley Voice have been really good. It's a good group of people that get along pretty good and have patience when it comes to the Zoom calls. So that starts tomorrow at 10 o'clock till 2, following up on March 10th at Wednesday, I think, following week. So that's coming up tomorrow. And spoke at Sunset Rotary, talked about the good things the county's doing and how we're dealing with COVID and the vaccines and the rollout and testing. So that was all very good too as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So for me, again, last week had a few conference calls, also had an in-person meeting with Jared Blumenfeld, who is the EPA director, Cal EPA director, and a number of issues that are, important to the Valley. One is we have had an ag burn waiver for some time in the region in our WARE district. We are moving to end that waiver, and so basically CARB had our plan, the district's plan before them last week, and it was knocked down, drag out to get another 4 years of permitted burning with a phase out at the end of 4 years. A lot of funding is part of the request to look at technology that will assist in brush removal, and obviously the thing that brought probably this to the forefront was the biomass plants closing and places for ag waste to go to be dealt with. Also talked a little bit about water and some of the previous administration's moves and then when you look at this year, the 5% allocation that was announced yesterday for State Water Project, or the Central Valley Project, once again puts everybody in a bind, and some of that could have been offset. It's obviously a dry year, but reasonable adaptions to water moving through the delta is always something that would be very helpful. And so we're able to have those discussions with him, and seems very receptive to just the thought of how agriculture exists and what it needs to exist. And so look forward to further discussions with those folks. Also, coming up, typically we're in Washington, D.C. this time of year with the NACO Ledge Conference. It's our opportunity to share our legislative platform. Obviously, that's not going to take place in person this year, but NACO has announced March 8th through 26th will be the online virtual legislative conference and committee meetings, and also I think a number of speakers, which will be important to everyone, and how this administration will direct and move policy, and so it'll be some insight into that. Also had the opportunity to do a Zoom call with the recently appointed Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Bill Sack. He announced a number of his new department head and associate department head directors, and it was a pretty short and sweet. Here we are, and no questions, please. So didn't get to ask anything, but with that,
Peterson?
Yes.
So on the Cal EPA guy, he talked about the extension for 4 years for burning.
Right.
You know, when we burn our brush, we grind it. They only grind a certain part of the tree. They won't grind the roots. So did they address that? Because not all of it can be ground with a machine. You still have to get rid of it somehow. Did they address that at all?
No, and that there's obviously numerous industries. One of the other issues is one of the big issues right now is when you push vineyards, you have metal in there, and how do you deal with the metal if you're not going to burn it? And so there are a number of issues like that need to be addressed, and I know the Air District and all of the ag organizations are very engaged in how we move forward in this. But that's good questions, and I mean, they're asking for a slug of funding to over the next 4 years to really fund studies, and there's a lot of direction already in studies and direction, but we do have a timeline, and with respect to funding, it's going to be dependent on the governor's budget and how we look at funding the issues that we need to get through this 4-year process. But that, along with CARB's commitment to air quality and our PM 2.5 and ozone plans with respect to vehicles, obviously has been very helpful. But when you listen to the amount of billions that keep falling out of the sky, I mean, today we heard 6.6 billion for education. At some point, we're going to run out of billions to hand out. But
so I agree with Bill Byrne. I mean, it's nice to wake up in the morning and not be neighbor burning the trash at night. So it is better, but there are some areas we need to identify, either in the industry with creating equipment or putting this stuff somewhere. We got to dispose of the roots, the virus or the nematodes or the diseases that we got to get rid of. And sometimes burning them down and get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, I know UC Davis and other institutions are involved in looking at, researching, what are the impacts? How can we better deal with those things? And so it's an evolving program, but we do have, under the waiver, it could have just ended, but through their district's efforts to create a plan that was, would achieve all of the clean air requirements, and also phase it out, which was part of this waiver. Like many things in California.
We'll be here in 4 years again discussing it, right?
Yeah, probably.
I know they reduced the burn days down to 1 day a week, 1 day a month.
Yeah.
With that, so.
Well, and it's really predetermined on air
Mr.
quality.
Chair, I hate to interrupt. We can agendize this conversation for another time if you'd like. Unfortunately, it's not on the agenda for discussion.
Okay. Yeah, and it may be that we do invite Samir, it's been a while since, he's been in Kings County and we can get an update on, all the various, changes and regulations and things like that. So, let's see, I think that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Hill has his hand up. He'd like to provide some clarification on youth sports related to COVID-19.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to mention that I did not provide a clarification between spectators and observers when it comes to sports and recreations. Spectators are not allowed at adult events, and spectators are also not allowed at youth sports events. However, the state does have a carve out for observers. These are limited to those who are immediate members of the household, and they're supposed to be used for the appropriate supervision. But it does allow that to occur as long as all of the other modifications are in place, the face coverings, physical distancing, things along those lines. And that is only for age 18 years and under, so that the correct parental supervision can be on site. I just wanted to add that clarification.
Very good, thank you. So we'll move on to board correspondence.
There's one item in correspondence from Dudley Ridge Water District, some budgetary item for budget year 2021 calendar year. And also in that letter, there's information on discharge of all its obligations for that year as well. There's no upcoming meetings or events, and upcoming agenda items for next week will be the COVID-19 update. Also, approval of a crime bond as public official bond and set faithful performance amounts from the Human Services Agency, a First Amendment for agreement with KCAO for child care resource and federal services, from the Assessor's Office, a resolution for executing outside access agreements. From County Council, there will be an appointment of directors to the Tulare Lake Basin Water Storage District in lieu of the election. Also, selection of a consultant for redistricting, from Community Development, a public hearing on the 2020 Community Development Block Grant. This is the round 2 and 3 coronavirus response related CDBG grant. Also on the 16th, moving on, Behavioral Health will bring an agreement with the state for county mental health plan, and also from IT, an enhanced email system purchase. And at the end of the month will be the Women's History recognition. Thank you.
Very good. All righty. We have no closed session today. So at this point, we're on item 7, which is adjournment. So we will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be held on March 9th, 2021. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.